It's 7:42 a.m. You tap your card for a coffee you swear used to be cheaper. The screen flashes a number that feels slightly rude, and you don't argue or call your accountant, you just pay. Then you do it again at lunch, again on the way home for gas, again at the grocery store, again when rent hits. A few dollars here, a few there. By the end of the year, you've paid a tax that was never voted on in your name, never itemized on a receipt, and never shows up as a line on your paycheck. But it's real, it's constant, and it quietly decides whether your life gets easier or feels like it's getting more expensive even when you're doing everything right. The most effective taxes aren't the ones with the highest rates, they're the ones you don't notice. Picture $10,000 sitting in cash, your responsible emergency fund. If prices rise 3% this year, nobody breaks into your house and steals $300. But that's effectively what happens because your money didn't shrink in size, it shrank in power. That loss is the tax. You can't deduct it. You can't file a form to get it back, and you don't get a letter explaining why it happened. You just feel it at the checkout line, at lease renewal, and when your raise somehow turns into still struggling. The name of this tax is inflation, but calling it that is like calling a house fire unexpected warmth. Inflation is the symptom. The mechanism underneath is what most people never get shown. If more money is created faster than the amount of real stuff we produce, food, housing, energy, services, each dollar becomes a smaller slice of the same pie. Same pie, more slices, thinner slices. And this isn't about pretending prices rise for only one reason, they move for plenty of reasons. But the secret tax part, the part that behaves like a quiet transfer of wealth, is what happens when the system expands the money supply and uses inflation as a pressure valve. That's not a conspiracy, it's a design feature. The uncomfortable part is how new money actually enters the world. Most people imagine it gets printed and washes over everything evenly like a tide. It doesn't. New money appears somewhere specific, at a specific time, through specific channels, and the order matters. Step 1 is the government spending more than it collects, which isn't rare. Deficits have been normal for decades. To fund the gap, the Treasury issues bonds IS. Step 2 is those bonds get bought, sometimes by private investors, sometimes by banks, sometimes by foreign buyers, and sometimes effectively by the central bank. When the central bank buys government bonds, it doesn't pull from a vault of savings. It creates new bank reserves digitally to pay for them. You've heard it called quantitative easing, QE, and in plain language, QE is when the central bank creates new money to buy financial assets, mainly government bonds, and when that happens at scale, it changes the game because the money enters through financial markets first, not through your paycheck or your savings account. Money may be created out of thin air, but it tends to land in very thick wallets first. That timing is why inflation doesn't hit everyone equally. The people who receive new money first, big financial institutions, large borrowers, asset owners, government spending the funds, get to use it before prices fully adjust. They buy assets, fund projects, refinance, hire. Then the money spreads outward, and only later does it show up where you live as higher rent, higher food bills, higher insurance premiums, higher everything. By the time it reaches you, the price tags have already moved. So it's not just prices going up, it's the order they go up in, and the order decides winners and losers. You don't need the fancy term for it, you felt it. It's the feeling of working a full week and realizing the finish line moved again. This isn't abstract. We watched it play out in real time. In the US, money growth surged in 2020 at one of the fastest rates in modern history, and inflation later spiked, peaking around 9% year over year in mid-2022. And when headlines say inflation is down, many people hear prices are going back down, but that's not what it means. Lower inflation just means prices are rising more slowly. The price level stays higher unless you get deflation, which is rare and usually comes with other problems. So the secret tax doesn't only hit during scary spikes, it runs during calm years too. Even 2% inflation, often sold as price stability, quietly cuts your money's purchasing power roughly in half over about 35 years. At 3%, it's closer to 24 years. At 7%, it's about a decade. When someone says, it's only 3%, what they're really saying is your cash savings are melting slowly enough that you won't notice the compounding until it hurts. So who benefits? The biggest debtor benefits most, and there's no debtor bigger than a government with a large national debt. Inflation makes old debt cheaper to repay in real terms. Borrow in yesterday's dollars, repay in tomorrow's weaker dollars. That's not magic, it's arithmetic. On the other side, if you're a saver holding cash or earning interest below inflation, you're paying. The tax base is everyone holding the currency, especially anyone who can't outrun it, and inflation rarely acts alone. It has accomplices. One is shrinkflation, where the price stays the same, but the product quietly gets smaller, new packaging, less product, same bill. Another is bracket creep, where nominal wages rise because inflation rises, pushing you into higher tax brackets even if your real purchasing power barely improved, so you pay more tax without getting richer in real terms. A third is asset inflation, the psychological breaker. Cheap money and easy credit often show up first in assets like stocks and real estate, creating a split-screen economy where asset owners watch net worth rise on paper, while first-time buyers watch the entry price sprint away faster than they. And save. Same country, same inflation rate, completely different reality. Now do the math in your own life. If you earn $60,000 and inflation runs at 4%, you need a 2,400 raise just to stand still. Same groceries, same rent, same life. Not to get ahead, just to avoid going backward. If you got a 3% raise, it sounds decent, but in real terms you took a pay cut. If you got no raise, you ate the tax at full speed. This is why inflation feels personal, because it targets the gap between how fast your costs adjust and how fast your income adjusts. Prices can reprice in days, wages reprice in months or years. That delay is the collection period. People will say, a little inflation is good, that it encourages spending and keeps the economy moving. In theory, there's a version of that argument that can be coherent, but it relies on a world where money creation is restrained, debt is manageable, wages track prices, housing supply responds, markets stay competitive, and central banks can fine-tune the economy like a thermostat. That's the hype. The reality is that inflation is politically convenient. Cutting spending is painful, raising taxes is unpopular, borrowing is easy, and quietly reducing the value of money spreads the cost across everyone holding it. It doesn't arrive as a bill, so it doesn't trigger the same resistance, which creates a temptation. If inflation is the easiest way to finance big promises without immediate pain, why wouldn't it be used not as a one-time emergency tool, but as a habit? Zooming out, a constant invisible tax changes a society. It changes behavior. People stop saving in cash because cash is guaranteed to lose purchasing power, so they chase returns, not because they love risk, but because they're trying not to drown. It rewards leverage, because debt can become a strategy when inflation erodes the real value of what you owe until the cycle snaps and breaks things quickly. It deepens inequality mechanically, because people closest to asset markets and cheap credit benefit first, while people living paycheck to paycheck absorb the higher prices last with the least flexibility. And it erodes trust slowly, because when people feel like the scoreboard is rigged, like working harder doesn't create stability, they don't just get mad at prices, they get mad at institutions, at data, at the idea that the system is fair. The point isn't a list of hacks. The point is recognition. You are paying a tax collected through the money itself, compounded over time, and distributed by proximity to where new money enters the system. The quiet absurdity is that two people can live under the same inflation rate and experience totally different economies. One sees, my house went up 20%, the other sees, I'm locked out forever. Same inflation, different outcomes, and the question that lingers is bigger than next year's CPI print. A currency runs on trust that money tomorrow will be worth roughly what it's worth today, trust that saving isn't for fools, trust that the rules aren't secretly shifting under the table. If inflation becomes the default solution, the real question becomes, how much invisible taxation can a society absorb before people stop treating money like money and start treating it like something to escape?